All right, hey everybody. Here this is Adam Scott, D&D Club. I'm here with my friend Brian, RPG and Co. And our guest today. Welcome to Lawfully Chaotic. We figured out a name for the show, so I'm just excited to be here tonight with everybody. We're gonna have a good time. We'll be on here for about an hour, and our guest tonight, Malcolm Trotter, gentleman Gamemaster. Malcolm, we're glad you're here, man. I haven't seen you in a while. Tell us where are you, man? I know where you are, but tell everybody who doesn't know you where you at. How things going?
I'm down here in the Los Angeles, California area. Yeah, and but just running games from my little dungeon, so a hole in the wall, and so I appreciate you guys having me.
Nice,
absolutely.
Oh, this has been a long time coming, so thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we've had this as an idea to the three of us get together for, I don't know, it's been on and off several months, maybe even half a year. We've been
I was going to say 6 months.
Yeah. So
by the way, Adam, turns out you are the creative genius that came up with the name, so bravo.
Well, you typed something into our Discord, and then I just saw it, and my wife accuses me of just picking the first, like, she's like, you just take whatever name you see, and you don't create anything. You just see a word and you're like, that's a great word. She's like, I don't know how you got it. She's like, I don't know how you built a business on the word D&D Club. She's like, it's a terrible name. All it does is just like 3 letters in a simple word. So I don't know. I'm just lucking out.
Well, I love it. So, and the name and everything came together like really well. So
hey, it's
awesome.
It just, and the graphic. I like the little smoking. It's a. You guys can't see it because it's we're casting, but it's a everyone else can see it. It's the demon head guy with the cigar,
the smoking devil. Yeah,
it's pretty badass.
Yeah, that artwork.
Pretty badass.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I don't know Mal. What do you have going on right now in your neck of the woods? I mean, we have our topic of the day that we can talk about in a little bit. But what's going on with you? I know you and I have connected a lot with the pro DMing thing, and I know I always tend to get on that tangent, so I don't want to talk about that, but I want to throw it to you and just tell us what you've got going on. What are some of your hobby projects, professional projects within the community or D&D world, RPG world? What do you got going on right now, man?
Yeah, man. Thanks for asking. I think you're one of the main kind of pro DMs I start looking up to when we first started doing it. So I love what you got going right now. I've always leaned heavily on I always share that my style is to try to be as cinematic and immersive as possible in every one of my games. I always want players to feel like, in all the other things that we want D&D to be, as a dungeon master, I want to be a referee, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a good facilitator, but I also want to bring a little pizzazz, a little showmanship to the game. And without trying to be, not trying to be a Matt Mercer, not trying to be just trying to be myself, but in my own kind of style. And so I've just been working on that. We have a similar kind of setup. People pay to play the games or pay for a seat at the table. But right now I have a Theros, kind of like a MMO style world where there are three campaign groups living and running in Theros all at the same time right now.
Awesome.
A group of
That's
9, a
very
group of
cool.
6, and like a group of 5.
How do you facilitate that do you have different dungeon masters doing that? Do you have do you run all the games? Do you partner with DMs to run each different session? How many players do you have for each of those?
Yep. That's a good question. So I have one dungeon master is running a full-time campaign like every 2 weeks. I'm running 3 of those games, and then another dungeon master runs one-shots within the world, but then we consult together because those one-shots affects the course of the world as well. And often he runs one-shots that might have taken place in the past. All of the dungeon masters we've broken up it's still mostly me because I would like there to be more of us. But we've divvied up some of the ownership of the gods. So when I'm dealing with the god of like Perforos, the god of the Forge, if that's not my god, I go talk to that DM and ask that DM, how should I run Perforos in this game? Or can you show up for this game if Perforos is supposed to show up in all his glory? So we had one game where towards the last part of the game, the last hour, Nylea, the god of the hunt, shined her light. And so my DM, Richard, just jumps on the call as Nylea and starts running.
Awesome.
That's fantastic.
I then just passed the ball to him. And so from then on, I was no longer dungeon mastering. He dungeon mastered the last hour and a half of the game.
That's
I just watched.
Was this was this your idea to set this up like this and do this? That's fantastic. It's like the DDCU. It's like the Dungeons and Dragons cinematic universe.
Yeah. And so players start, they start hearing about other players' stories and like what's going on. And so one group 2 weeks ago was in the arena, right, fighting in like the gladiatorial games. Well, 2 weeks later, one of the other groups is helping that group, but they don't know they're fighting in the barracks underneath the floorboards of the arena. So they can hear the floor shaking, they can hear the tigers and the crowd cheering, but they're down like in the muck of it, trying to make sure that the second and third wave don't get to the players above. Even though they aren't really there, right? These other players are just NPCs to them, but they're all kind of in the same world at the same time.
That's fantastic. That is really cool.
A lot of fun. So that's what I've been working on, and then just sharing my love for the craft on Instagram and when I can, for sure, man.
That's great, dude. I always like the different ways in which you present the campaigns that you run, because it's so, like you said, everyone has kind of their own style and their own take on it. And I think your style is, I think you and I strive for similar things, but I think we do things differently in terms of how we present games. I think the thing that really, and this kind of even could lead into the topic we want to talk about tonight, is this idea of terrain, and does it add, does it take away? How do you use that in the game world? FC Byron is here, and he's saying, Brian, screaming out Brian. Who is that, Brian? Is that one of your buddies?
Who is that?
FC Byron? FC Byron Heights? I don't know.
Who is that?
I don't know who it is. I don't know. We got a lurker. I don't know. I don't know who it is.
I don't know what your screen name is.
I know that guy.
Now they're laughing at us all together, which is good. They said, "Come on, man. I guess that you just forgot a friend," which is not good. So,
come on.
That's okay. That's all right.
Dang.
We'll spread.
Hold
the
on.
word.
Let me check my.
Check your DMs.
I don't know the Twitch handle. It's the Twitch handle throwing it off. It's Mike.
Oh, Mike Heights.
Yeah, it's Mike.
Oh, okay. What's going on? How am I supposed to know your screen name for Twitch or whatever?
We're supposed to know everything. We're on a Twitch stream. So this terrain thing. I was going to ask, and just lead it off actually to both of you, because you guys both, I think, Brian, you mentioned last time we were on, like, hey, maybe we'll find a place where we actually disagree. I think this is a topic where we'll actually disagree, because you guys, let me put it this way. How about each of you describe the way in which you conduct a game, especially in this remote climate that we do games in, or in person? Like, what do you have on the table? What does it look like? And why do you do it? And then maybe we can kind of get into some of the X's and O's. Brian, what do you set up so that your players see, and why?
Well, so it's evolving. So the whole topic tonight is basically, my answer is predicated on a deeper discussion about this whole topic, because I have always used dry erase and markers. Okay, being a designer, I can draw a halfway decent map, so that even just a flat map on a dry erase, if I've got time to prepare, will look pretty good to the players. But I do find myself starting to delve into the terrain, and I have mixed opinions on the terrain topic. So my table, one of my table,
you set it up mainly when you're doing a game with dry erase pen.
I do.
Okay.
Yes. So I've got my map out. I've got, markers. I've got a number of dry erase maps, the cardboard ones. I think they're the Pathfinder 5e ones or whatever. I don't remember if it's Pathfinder or 5e, but anyway, it's I've got a number of those. So if I know that there are a number of encounter locations, I'll even draw them out ahead of time, so that way I can just plop the map on top, which works really well. I won't get into my thoughts yet. I'll let Malcolm explain what he's got on his table, which I've seen some of the pictures of, and my head just explodes.
I'll try to do the same thing then and not get into my thoughts then. I try to conduct a game. It's weird. It's from game to game. I will say, when it's D&D, it has become more creating the terrain for the game. Because when I play something like Tales from the Loop, I don't use almost anything, right? But Theater of the Mind, and I usually change this little background thing here when I'm remotely to show what NPC or what I will put up multiple different backgrounds. So I was always been a visual learner, so visual reference is really important for me, but it doesn't have to be terrain. Well, now as you can see, if you've seen any of my posts on Instagram, yeah, there's a lot of terrain now. And so what I'll try to say, what I do is similar to what you were saying, Brian, is if you're drawing out multiple encounters, which is extremely time consuming, but I will build 2 to 3 encounters. And it sucks because when you never use the other 2 that you spent an hour building, you just take pictures. At least you take pictures for the
These
gram.
look great. I'm going to put them on IG, and I'm
take
going
pictures for the gram.
to have sad music play as I erase
forget
them.
to take the picture for the gram. And you tear the dungeon apart.
No, son of a bitch! I've done that so many times. I'm like, do I really want to reset? No, I'm going to bed.
Yeah, or you're so tired and it just looks the miniatures on. You're just like, yeah, forget it. You know, you just like let it go. So, but that's my approach, is to try to kind of do the same thing, create multiple encounters that I may use and build them, and then I still try not to make myself stick to them if the players go a different direction. I also am a little obsessive, because then I find music for those builds, and then I find backgrounds for those builds for the green screen, and they're all different.
See,
it's
when
never
I go
just
through
like
your feed, man, every time I see your like little teaser videos where you just have like a little 10-second thing with like Tales for the Loop or Alien, you have some kind of perfect soundtrack playing that I either have never heard of or was just too lame to not listen to. Every time I see that, I'm like, God, I could be so much better at all of this, and it just gets me so excited. I'm like, God, I want to get in there and play, and I want to do it. And like, I got Tales from the Loop, I've got Alien, and I'm like, if only I can just harness a little bit of that. You kind of get that little essence of what it is right there in those little snapshots. Like, you do a great job of that, man.
I'm just a mimic, man. I'm just a,
No, fucking own it, dude.
What I own by that is, like, I often tell, here's the, and don't get me wrong, everybody's watching. I am not trying to compare myself to Quentin Tarantino, but one of my favorite directors.
But you're gonna.
That when people watch his movie, that's what I'm kind of about to do, is like, say, if there's anybody I aspire to be like, even though I don't think my gaming style is anything like that, is that when I break down his career, because I love film, right? And so I love multiple directors, and I can go to each director and tell you like why I love Kubrick and why I love. But what I love about Tarantino is unabashedly, like, he doesn't care. He pretty much just does what he's inspired by, and then he just makes a monster mashup of that thing that he loves, and then presents it to you like it's brand new, and then he counts on you to look through it and be like, you took that from this. You took that from that old movie in the 70s. Oh, you took that track. He even says, like, when he starts a script, he just starts with the opening scene. And then after he writes the scene, he goes in his music room and he just starts listening to music, because the music is so important. So for me, half of my campaigns are half baked, and I just listen to music and dive into these, and I get into these weird spaces where I'm listening. I'm like, this song is my boss fight, but I don't even know why. Right. And it's like, and then it's trying to make the connections to, like, this song is going to be what I play when I try to, like, murder everyone in the game.
Is what's gonna happen.
I will say, you do the audio and the green screen. I don't do green screen, and I will freely admit I am lacking in the audio department. I gotta up my game there. But your overall package, your streams, they're just awesome. Awesome.
What was I gonna say? Like, the thing that brings to my mind is, like, I saw somebody shared it on Instagram today. I forget who it was. I think it was Gary Gygax's day with some Gary Gygax quote, and the quote was like, let's never tell something along the lines of, let's never tell the dungeon masters they don't actually need any rule books, or they don't actually need any rules. Like, and that to me is like, kind of what you're just saying, Mal, is that's what that reminds me of. Like, as long as you have the essence of the story in your head and what you want to do, all the rest of it is just smoke and mirrors to get players there to have that great moment. And I feel like that's what I feel like a lot of new players really get bogged down in. Like, I've got to read the rules, I've got to have the map drawn perfectly, I've got to I got to drop $500 on Dwarven Forge, I've got to get all this shit so that I can do the perfect game. So it makes me sad when I see that, because I'm like, no, you just need a sick track where you're gonna go ape shit on the players, and they're gonna go, oh my god, that's amazing.
Yep.
And
so here's my view. Let's just get into this.
Let's just get into it.
First of all, I think 3D printing is just amazing. If we had 3D printers when I was a kid, Oh my God. My house would be,
Insane.
I would have about 1 trillion minis in my house. And by the way, miniatures are, whether I'm playing in person or remote, I'm all about the minis. So that's just a given. I'm not even this. The minis to me don't even fall into the 3D terrain conversation because, like,
Interesting.
That's a
for
whole different
me,
thing, man.
for me, the minis, it's always minis, even remote. I'll go out and I'll buy the perfect minis for my players who live in fucking Canada, and paint them up and be like, "This
Sure.
is you," even though to them it's like a freaking blob on the screen. Just because I love doing that. Um, as 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 far as the terrain itself, I think the phenomenon of the 3D terrain is just mind blowing. I mean, it is an unbelievably awesome thing, and I have so as a player and as a D&D nerd, I'm like, yeah, I'm all about the terrain. Absolutely, the more the better. Um, as a DM, I can see where, first of all, I don't think it's tenable. And Malcolm, I'd love your input on this. I don't really think, no matter how modular it is, all right. I've got some WizKids Warlock tiles, which
I've
are
heard about
actually
those. How
they're
are those?
actually they're really
I live by those things.
they are
Okay.
really great and relatively economical.
Economical.
They take fucking forever to set up. There is no like, maybe you have a secret, Mal, but for me, there's no like, oh, this room needs to change. No, it's not happening with that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
Dwarven Forge does an awesome job with the magnetic stuff and the tiles. So I've also delved into Dwarven Forge. Big mistake. First one's free, right?
Yeah,
then
oh my
then
God,
it's
this
like
stuff's so
crap.
Man.
But with the magnetic stuff, you can shuffle stuff around. Now, my view is that, yes, to me, the terrain definitely adds, for the players, it adds a level of immersion, okay? Because let's face it, there are creative players, all right, and there are players that aren't so creative and are not as good at conjuring up imagery in their mind.
Sure, they need the visual.
much more visual and tactile of like what's in front of them. So I do think that it adds depth to the game. One of the Dwarven Forge sets I have is the dungeon with all the glowing orbs and the plug-in LED stuff, which is
That
just
shit's
freaking
cool.
It is cool as shit.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time I used it a few weeks ago, my players just about shit themselves because they're like, "This is unbelievable." And your
I
castle
love
thing,
those pictures, by the way, with the lights inside.
yeah,
the
well,
dungeon
same
with
thing. Like the
lights on.
castle, I see your castle one, and it's with the tower, and it's just
Yeah,
it's amazing.
smoke.
So
In the chat, by the way, Twisted Duo says minis matter more to me than terrain. I enjoy imagining a space myself by the description, but I can understand new player adults feeling a bit removed without a 3D terrain.
yeah, so that's Matt. That's another one of my crew.
Nice.
We actually talked about this
What's up,
the
Matt?
other day. So the thing for me is there's two, and I have opinions, but I'm not sure where I where I actually fall because and I won't drone on too much longer because I want to hear what you have to say, Mel. But
Very good.
I don't see it, and A and B kind of go together. I don't see it as being very modular and expandable. Okay, you have got to invest, and B was the cost. All right, and they go hand in hand because to really truly be able to handle any encounter. As a DM, I don't want like rooms 1, 2, and 3 for published module X. Okay, I want shit that I can use in homebrew or in any of the published modules or whatever. To be able to accommodate any encounter like that, I mean, we're talking literally thousands of dollars of terrain, and for a critical role or a high production value show, that's great, and that might be possible. For the average DM, I mean, it's not tenable to spend that much money and continually spend that much money to be able to do every single encounter. Not even to mention now you got another box full of shit to schlep around.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is I won't even go there. So, and even with the terrain, even when I got stuff set up with what little that I have so far, and I do plan on buying more because it's cool as shit. And that's why I said, even though I have these opinions, I'm still going to buy more and I'm still going to use it.
Well, I feel like it's different as a DM and as a player. Like as just a collector and hobby, I'm like, give me more Dwarven Forge. I build castles with my daughter. I love setting up dioramas.
Yeah, but
like, there's a bad guy.
Yeah,
like,
totally. I
agree.
And I agree. But after a point, you've got 50 wall tiles and floor tiles and you can build something cool. As a DM, by the time you reach 1,000 floor tiles and wall tiles, you're like, oh my God, how much have I spent on this and where the hell am I going to put it?
That's true.
And I still find myself going back for efficiency and speed. I'll still go back and wipe all the terrain off and just start drawing on the dry erase again. So,
Mal, how do you set your stuff up, Mal? Because you've got so much. I mean, I like the visuals you use. You do a lot of physical terrain, but it's digital. Like you do a lot of remote games. So, like, how do you set that? Like, how much prep time do you spend? Is it tiring?
Yeah. So I wanted to pick before I answer what I do.
Go ahead.
I think there's multiple ways to address the terrain thing. I do think that terrain is meant for more. Let's face it, I'm 41 years old now, and I just got to the point where I can afford all the terrain I want. Right, and even then, I still can't afford all the terrain I want. I'm still, every time I build something, I'm like, that's halfway decent. I look and some guys like built, using Dwarven Forge, the same thing, and I'm like, God damn it. And like one of the guys I follow online, Ink Mage, his dungeon is ridiculous. And I think what he does is, I don't know if I'm wrong, but where I follow him, I feel like week to week he asks his players, where do you want to go next? He builds out an entire table, and then once they're there for 4 hours. They're there crawling through.
Well, he builds.
So what do you do? What do you do? I want to leave the town and I want to go to this
we're not doing that.
No.
You're getting attacked on the way
it's
out.
A big
right?
fucking
what do you want to do on this street right here?
You're not leaving any town.
But he creates such a wonderland. When those players walk in, they're like, oh, I want to explore that little volcano. What happens if we go over here to the swamp? So I think that's another way of doing it. I don't do it that way, right? I think another thing for us to remember is that, without going on a tangent, I think D&D, we always harp on like theater of the mind and how awesome it is as a storytelling vehicle. But this game was spawned out of tabletop wargaming.
Yeah.
I was a tabletop wargamer.
Yeah.
So terrain was everything to me forever. Until I realized, what am I doing? My money, like I'm in college and I'm going broke. I'm trying to I'm making the terrain.
I forgot if we ever talked about this. Did you ever play Warhammer 40,000?
Oh, I was a 40. That's how I dabbled in D&D, but I was a 40K.
That's where your first $10,000 went.
And then I remember I realized there was this aha moment with 5th edition where I said, I don't need all this stuff to like live in this lore. And then 5 years later I'm like, now I need all this stuff. I need more stuff to live. And I think D&D, as successful as 5th edition has gotten, it understands that its success is big right now. So they're definitely going to keep pumping the plastic crack at us and the books.
Well, I kind of also feel like, I mean, I think it's safe to say that right now the biggest target audience or the biggest demographic for D&D is us, basically.
Yeah.
Because we grew up with it, and I know that new players are all the time yada yada yada. But I think part of it is just like, because it's what I said at the beginning. If we had this when we were kids, our minds would have been blown. So it's kind of like, well, now we can have it. So I'll fucking spend $400 on a room. Of terrain.
To answer Adam's question, I think it's really shortly, what I typically will do is, if I don't really know where the story's going, I might build a very elaborate open world like wilderness set for the game, and then I'll usually feel like I might be able to rely on it. Worst case, I always tell players, like, don't rely on terrain, because we might go full theater of mind. There's moments where I don't have anything set. I'm like, this whole combat's just going to be theater to mind. Actually, you know what? This combat's not even going to have initiative, right? But I feel like what D&D prides itself on is it's weird. Even fifth edition has kind of felt like, I feel like players really get into the rules and the minutia of the rules and how they built the character. And so I start realizing they want to know 15, how far away I am from this monster when I do burning hands and all that stuff. And so then what I'll do is I'll build 2 to 3 other encounters. And what I'll do is I'll put them on a plate and put them on a lazy Susan. And then I can drop those on the table and spin them, and put a camera on them.
Here's what I'm thinking. I'm hearing you talk about this, and I've been thinking about this not just today, but I've been getting worked up about this for no good reason, and I can't talk to my wife about this.
I want to hear
because she doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, so you said we might actually diagree on this. Well, what's your take?
Yeah, I want to hear.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's disagreement. It's just I feel like.
I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, you don't agree with my feelings.
I want the smoke. I want all the smoke. Come on, Adam.
I keep coming back to this. I feel like D&D has become almost a war game, like for many new players, and that's not the way I like to run it. And again, we've always talked about this. Everybody's fun is their fun. You can have fun however you want. But for me, the reason why I grew up playing Avalon Hill war games. Con sims, like real strategy war games. I did a little bit of tabletop wargaming, and so to me that's like its own thing. In D&D and role playing in general, I love it because it's so story focused. And I feel like there's this shift where we're going like almost into this wargaming element where like I feel like these new players, I want to welcome them into the hobby. I want to bring them to the table, and it's almost like they see what's on Critical Role, or they see what's on. People have these incredible setups online, and they're like, "Oh man, you don't have all this shit. You don't have all this stuff. Like, well, this isn't D&D. It's not." Or they feel it's not D&D if I don't buy everything. I don't have all these things.
Okay, I actually do disagree with you.
Oh, good.
I do too.
First time.
I think I disagree on this one.
Yes.
I think.
What do you think differently on?
I think. Well, first of all, your opinions are completely wrong.
Good.
Good. I think. No, I think that the reason we may feel that way is because that's the stuff that gets posted. All you're seeing posted are these fabulous pictures of the terrain setups and whatnot. Unless somebody is actually casting their game and you're following it and watching it, you're not seeing the in between role playing and storytelling and whatnot. I mean, in my games there are some sessions where I don't pull out a map and we don't roll dice, but for 2 insight checks or perception checks the whole night or something like that. Same thing with Critical Role. I mean, there are plenty of episodes where the maps never come out. So I don't disagree with you in terms of new players maybe getting the wrong message when they see that stuff in terms of what the game is about. But then I think it is incumbent upon the DMs to basically run a game that is not just that's not just Warhammer 40,000, and actually is D&D. But again, to each his own. And if you got players that just want to roll,
that's kind of what I'm saying. Not to be a wuss out on it because I want to disagree with you, but I feel like the DMs are trying to kind of pull in one direction. And there may be new players coming in that are expecting something different. And so there's this misalignment at the table in some respects about what we're setting up to do. I don't know. I might be just full of shit and just be...
I don't think you're full of shit. I don't think you're full of shit. I don't think it's terrain. I just think it's... I mean, you could do that... Turning it into a war game, I don't think depends on the terrain. I mean, you could just have, a whole session of rolling dice with a paper map.
I like to cast a different villain. I think it has a lot more to do with online software stuff, online tabletop systems like Roll20. I think they create an archaic version of the game that feels like a video game.
That I will agree with.
Players are being introduced to the game on those. Everyone sees the Dwarven for stuff, but a lot of my players, especially players that get introduced, they've never played with all the fun, cool toys. If anything, they play a lot on Roll20. And they get so used to staring at a flat map and moving their character here. And because even though I use terrain, it's a visual reference, right? Like I might, you move 30 feet and you're 5 feet away. I'm not going to be like, you can't get to that bad guy. I'm going to be like, you rush in and, I'm just going to keep the narrative going. that set is a set. It's a set piece. It's like a movie set for me. I'm just trying to convey the action and give you something to grab onto if you don't have the same level of imagination that I have, or maybe because your mind just thinks differently, right?
Sure.
But I think there's a lot of, I think it's systems like that, and there's a lot of dungeon masters, like you said, Adam, that are leaning too heavily on the rules and like not seeing that one cool rule in the dungeon master's guide that says like all the rules are as relevant as what you see fit, to the narrative. And I think there's a lot of people playing the game like that. And there's this new generation also are
kids today.
Sorry, I'm an old head. You guys,
we got another old bearded guy. I was about to say bald, but you actually have hair still.
D&D was the first video game. Everybody had now, me and my brother were all like JRPG players, Japanese RPG players, Final Fantasy players, tactics players. So we're all like trying to replicate video games. I mean, a lot of times I feel like I've sat at tables where I go, you're replicating video games here. And I'm saying like, and that's why I try to break from it. I try to replicate movies because movies are a bit looser in their play style. But yeah,
I actually had the original Pong when I was a kid before I ever started playing D&D. And I'm not joking. I'm 100% serious.
I did not.
I agree with everything you just said. I hate Roll20. I'll just say it. I don't like Roll20 at all.
I know, man.
Because what you said, it turns it into a video game.
I actually, to piggyback on what you just said and kind of the vein of Roll20, we run a ton of digital games with what I do, and I actually try to steer clear personally of using any of those online platforms. I actually just use I'll just put up an image and I'll just put some circles on it. Be like, you're here, here, and here. Let's get into it.
Yep.
And then I take it down and then we talk through it because I think it really can drag the game down so much. And to me, pacing is everything. Like Mal, you just mentioned, like keeping the story moving, keeping it going. Like when I first started running games, people were like, well, how do you tell a good story? And I'm like, just keep the story moving, make it interesting, give people challenges, give them interesting things to do.
Yep.
And I find like when I first started setting up games, I would go to the bar when I was doing it for money. I would go and I would set up all my shit and I had all this stuff set up and I was exhausted before the game started. And I was like, oh my God. And then and then afterwards I'd take it all down. And now I would just, I would just show, last time I ran a game in person, I showed up and I was like, here's a map, here's a tree, and here's like 5 minis, like let's play. And I want it so badly to be about the story because I feel like that's what D&D and role. I don't want to just say D&D because I'm talking about role playing, and I think there's this thing.
I
confuse D&D with the whole hobby, and I see that a lot with younger players. Like, oh, I got to play D&D. I'm like, no, we can also play Star Wars. We can do Alien. They're like, there's Alien. Oh my God.
That's why I play the other games like Morgborg and Tales, and because I don't have to build all that.
I ran a poll on my IG about 6 months to a year ago, and I said, what is the name of the hobby where we basically sit down at the table and do these things together? And 90% of the people said D&D, and 10% of the people said tabletop role playing.
Tabletop role, it's crazy.
And so it's an interesting. I mean, kudos to Wizards for. I mean, it's the marketing juggernaut.
It's like Coca-Cola, Kleenex, and Q-tips.
I'll have a Pepsi. I'll Kleenex.
Absolutely.
I'll get a Kleenex, whatever. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that.
You bring up. I'll say one thing. You bring up a good point about pacing. That's another thing with the terrain. There's a point at which, regardless of what your opinion is on whether it's good or bad, if you're using it, there's a point at which it does slow the game down because there's just too much crap on the table, and it's like, oh, this piece came loose, or this table slid across, or whatever, or I got to move somebody 30 feet, but I got to rearrange the whole thing. At that point, that also becomes, we talked about that the other day too. My buddy Matt, Twisted Duo, said that the other night. It's like, there's a point at which it's just too much shit to deal with on the table. And, it draws out the length of an encounter even longer.
But you can blow it up whenever. This is what I love about the game, is that you can blow that up whenever you want to. You can decide to disengage from that. I often make something happen that changes it. Turn the camera off. And I think one of the biggest sellers on that's why I like often, movie references are always big for me. And also I think as a dungeon master, especially since I've been doing it online, you're a DJ. You're setting the tempo for the party. And It's like, and you just got to be able to, and you got to know when it's time to go, and you got to know to bring it up here, and then you got to know when to like drop the full bass, bah, 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 and then bring it back.
So not only do we need a producer for the show, we also need a DJ with a full rig setup.
So I feel like that's what I'm doing a lot of times. I'm controlling this music. I'm setting a pace. Okay, well, I don't think we need this tabletop anymore. Turn that camera off, right? Change the background here. Take us to a new setting. Pull up a snap. Like one of the big things for like games with if you guys ever want to get away from running tape, like the actual miniatures, it's a lifesaver in my Alien games is just to use these different backgrounds, a Hall of the Nostromo, sound. And then what's also a really cool feature is some people are using, you've probably seen using the snap camera filter. So changing your face whenever you want to, right? Like right now I'm Leonin. Just like that, right? Why not? This stuff this is the new, this is
oh my God, that's awesome.
I never thought I had students do that all year last year in class, and I never thought they should use that in a game. And that's why I'm glad you're here, man.
All your NPCs, all your,
that's great.
See, this is why Malcolm is so good at what he does. If you have a chance to play one of his games, you should do it. Definitely, hands down.
Oh man.
Hey, Twisted.
Next time, by the way,
Twisted had a question for us here. Yeah. Twisted said, in your collective experience, do you find 3D terrain lends itself to more wargaming and role playing falls off to the wayside? So like if you have all the 3D terrain, are you gonna more go toward the war game, or does it actually help new players get immersed and role play, and does it foster role playing? So does it kind of lead one way or another, or does it kind of depend?
I think a little bit of both, and again, I think it's how well the DM utilizes it. Like if you're trying to force its use, just because you built it before the session, not good. If it's just too much, I think it's how you utilize it. Again, I like Malcolm's analogy that it's basically just a set piece. It should not dictate the story. It should support it. So I do think that there is the possibility of that happening, but again, it falls on us to make sure that it doesn't, and to still, for me, role playing, the storyline will always be more important than, whatever $500
your plastic toys more important
than
your
the plastic toys.
All the way.
Yeah. So like I'm perfectly content doing 3 hours of shopping in Waterdeep or shit like that. So yeah, I do think it definitely has the potential for the to be that, or for that for that to happen, but I think it's how the DM utilizes it. Mal?
I think I agree with you. I think 100%. I wish I could disagree just to have some fun with it, but I think that it is I think that it's about how the DM uses it, and it does often make sometimes depending on the set piece, I have to work harder to keep the narrative going because players sometimes want to focus on the minutia, the combat. Other times it's helpful, and I will say sometimes what also helps, like you said, is to throw them off by sometimes I'll build a set piece and put it on the board and like share it so they can kind of see where they're at, and to get them thinking like, get them away from thinking the Critical Role thing, like if the set comes out, we're going to have combat or there's going to be encounter. Sometimes that set is just there to inform them what things look like. So I can kind of describe lightly and give them something to go off of. And then we'll leave that scene and they'll be like, you had that whole setup, but we didn't do anything in there. I was like, no, it's just so you guys could, you could have fought the town guards could have came, but nothing happened. So we'll move it. So I think as long as you as a dungeon master don't get bought in or married to the fact that I built this, so I have to have something,
it's a mimic. It's coming out of somewhere.
It's
gonna eat you.
So I love how Mercer every once in a while he's like, well, that map is never going to be seen after spending all weekend building it.
You learn some hard lessons.
One thing I'm going to do what you said before about like the green screens and whatnot. I think none of that stuff ever occurred to me. I think next time, obviously this will only work on a remote game, unless I start poking people's eyes out. But next time somebody casts darkness, I'm just going to shutter the camera. I'm going to close the camera. So
just boom.
Everything just black.
I love it.
I love it. That's great. That's great.
Guys,
man.
we were gonna go. How long do you guys want to go tonight? We were gonna go 45. We're going an hour. What do you guys want to do?
No, let's go. Come on, Mel's on. Let's go an
Man, I
hour
don't get to be
tonight.
over all the
well,
time. Yes.
You know, I didn't know if anybody wanted to have some milk and go to bed.
Hold on. Let me pour some more milk here.
And there you go.
Yeah, some more milk.
Yeah.
There's some of my milk here.
This is something
My
I want
horn
to
of
pick your
milk.
guys' brains on this, because there's a lot of things that we've all been kind of talking about in this dialogue centered around terrain, but a lot of stuff's come out of it. Music, you know, you mentioned Tarantino, Mal, and the idea of creating almost a movie-like experience, you know, being a DJ. How much of being a DM, I mean, I guess, I don't know how to freaking ask this. How much of this is like, and it feels almost self-serving, but I don't mean it that way. How much of being a DM is a task versus an art form? Because I keep thinking about this, how much of it is just kind of this intangible thing where we kind of put all these things together, and it depends on the person, or how much of it is just like XYZ.
How much should it be, or how much is it most of the time?
Either one from your perspective.
I think it should be. I think it should be like 80-20 art form versus task. I think
it should be, but I think sometimes you fall. There are moments when I find myself like, oh my god, I'm doing this because I have to. Yeah, and I'm starting to get burnt. You know.
Yep. And then the descriptions start to fade away. And
I do that with initiative. I hate rolling for initiative. What I love to do is if someone, like, logically, if someone's nearby, I'll just give them the first attack. Or if like the players are unaware of what's going on, I'll just let the bad guys get him, and then we just kind of use common sense to go through it. So that's one of those rules where I'm just like, I hate that. I hate going into initiative.
I love what you're saying, but I find I always get pushback from the players based on.
They're the ones who care.
They want
that's interesting
because they play that game that way. But when I play I play Alien, like there's no initiative. Tells there's no initiative. It's just kind of it's just free. It's a conversation, right?
It's free form.
But I think when when you're a rogue and you need like what is it? I don't know what that ability is where you get to if you attack first in initiative.
Yeah, it's like whatever. I don't even know what it is. I'm the DM. I don't know. I'm like, you have it. Great, go ahead. You get to kill some shit.
Assassinate.
There it is. See, you're better DM than I am.
Right.
I love as a player. As a player, see. I'm 90-10 task versus art form. As a player, I love rolling initiative. That's like the first I got an 18 or fuck, I'm going on 2. You know.
You know what, Adam? I've come to get used. I used to hate it too because it used to feel like all the tension just went.
Yeah.
You know, and then I'd be like, oh, now here we are putting it all together. But now what I've learned to try to do for myself, what's worked is build it up, drop the roll initiative, take a 5-minute break, and then kind of leave it on a cliffhanger right there. And then usually that gives me a chance to, and then kind of build up and get ready for and then come back ready to reintroduce something that happens at the very beginning of the battle to kind of oh shit, it's oh shit moment back after
I like that.
Put all those initiatives.
So you still have some kind of storytelling power. You take a little commercial break, you come back and
because a lot of monsters in D20 have layer actions that happen on 20 on the 20 set. So as soon as you come back from that little commercial break, you're suddenly stalactites start falling. Everyone may give me a dex save, and now we're in combat, right?
I like that.
That's super random, but it gives you something to get it right back in there.
I guess you could also pre-roll the initiative for the encounter, including for the players. I mean, you have their stats.
You could. I used to do that actually. It just uses a lot of work. It's like I would have them roll five initiative rolls before, and then give them to me at the table before the game even started. And then I would put them all on a sheet, and then I forget. I'm probably trying to figure out. And then I would roll. I would roll a dice or something like that, and then I would literally have to just look down my sheet and go, so and so's this, so and so's this, so and so. They rolled them before game, but
that's cool. I like that.
You just know the order. I like that.
And often once initiative is rolled in my games, I rarely ever reset it. So even if the combat ends, if it changes into another event, I keep that same initiative. I don't re-roll initiative. I will. See,
that's smart. I should start doing that just because
I want to roll every encounter.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Everybody's really. If it happens 3 days later, right? We go through a montage. Yes, I'm gonna. But
God damn, that 3 that I rolled 4 years ago is just killing me.
A dragon's there. I'm not gonna have a. I'm look, man. Okay, everybody's at their initiative. Because usually what I'll do is I'll have phases to that battle, and when that boss comes in or whatever, he's already been in there. I've just been skipping him for 8 rounds.
He's just sitting there back and watch this shit. These guys
I do the same thing.
Minions.
Kind of off topic, but who cares?
Twisted's like, don't nerf my rogue, bro. Hey,
Yeah,
damn it! I'm so
he's
sick of these
like-
rogues. Effing up all my surprise attacks for the boss.
Oh my
I
God.
got it.
Well,
Run
Let's
for
have a
that,
set
get plus
show where we
12.
just like bitch about
He was doing
about the
like
classes that we hate.
yeah, he was doing like 80 points of fucking damage like on those first turns. And now I'm not complaining because he was we were in the same party, so but our DM was not happy about it. He's like, "What?"
Oh my gosh.
Rogue. Spoiling them big.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. Oh, I've started using. I've been using D&D Beyond for a while now, and I think it's fantastic. Actually, maybe that could be next week's topic is D&D Beyond because there's some conversation to be had there too. But overall, I think it's amazing, and I fucking love it. Especially, I found that it really helps new players. Set up characters and get a feel for classes, characters, ability scores. I mean, I've had people that have never played before, and I told them create an account and I'll help you if you need it, and they're like, "Okay, I got my character done." Awesome.
Yeah.
But I've started using the encounter builder, which has been in beta for 17 years now.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I've been using it.
But I mean, when they release beta stuff, it's basically baked. I don't know why they still call it beta. But anyway, I've been using the encounter builders, and that has actually helped speed up my encounters a lot because that that handles initiative really well, and the turns and stuff. So I don't know. Have you been using that lately, or have you?
That's all I use. It
Really?
helped keep what I hated about rolling initiative. It has mitigated that because I roll randomly for my bad guys. I don't care if they roll a 2. It's like, all right, I hit the button, it auto rolls for all the villains.
Yeah.
And we're in the game. We're in the fight. As soon as I get you guys numbers, we're in the fight. And
Yeah.
it is what it is. There's a couple things that it could get better, but
Yeah, I agree.
it's just streamlined the process of getting to the back to the narrative a
Yeah.
lot faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Before I forget, so I had a T-shirt design done for our new show name logo. So how many people do we have in the chat right now?
I don't know.
Like 2?
I don't know. We got
Matt's getting a
two
T-shirt.
official viewers, but this thing always lags.
Matt, I'll
so
bring
maybe
one
we have
next
3 or 1.
Matt, I guess you win. I'll bring one next week when I come over to your place. How many people are in the chat?
We've got. I think Mark is still here. Mark's one of the players from my neck of the woods. We got. Oh, this is not confusing. No, we've got a Mark. We've got a Mike, and we got a Matt.
That's great.
So
okay.
that's
considering that I know 2 of them, then maybe all 3 of them will get T-shirts. So, Mark, I don't know you, but
Mark's a good egg, man. He played in one of Mal. You ran when we first partnered together. You ran a charity game and Mark was one of the guys who played in that. So Mark's been in my campaign for a long time.
Okay, well, I guess doing giveaways is easy when there's only 3 people.
These guys are like, shit, we're getting free stuff tonight. Just outlast everybody.
It's an endurance
like,
game,
I only
right?
wanted it if you shoot it at me in a T-shirt cannon.
All right. Well, I won't have it by next week, but I'll get one shortly after. We're playing. I get to play next week. We're picking up again I'm picking up again my level 15 Hexblade Warlock in Jeff's campaign,
nice.
which is based around Norse mythology. So I believe it's been like a year and a half since we played that campaign, but. I believe that
this first time back since the break.
Yeah. For us, yeah. I think Loki has just revealed himself to us, so I'm excited to.
Related to that, have any of you guys ever? There's Neil Gaiman wrote the Norse mythology. His take on Norse, he did a take on Norse mythology, and he also did an audiobook. Have either of you guys listened to it or read that?
What was the name of that? It sounds
Neil
familiar.
Gaiman. It's just the guy who wrote American Gods.
Oh wow!
And he did. So he
Watchmen.
wrote his. Yeah, he wrote his thing.
Wait, did he do Watch? No, that was Alan Moore. I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah, he did. No, what did he do? He did. I think he did
Sandman. Yeah.
So he did a take on. It's great. I mean, it's just great, pure storytelling. Both the book and the audio book. It's just killer.
I'll check that out.
He reads the audio book and it's so good. Oh, it's so good. It's just like I could listen to him read books all day. He's like, Loki went over and decided to cause some shit and ruin Thor's day, and it was so bad. And Thor got very angry because he was a drunk.
So good.
Anybody want
to be at a table with Adam. I've still never been at a table with Adam yet.
That's overrated. I'm all marketing. It's all just marketing.
I think we should all get together and grab a couple other of the DMs and all play, and we'll all be like, "No, you're doing that wrong. No, fuck you. This is bad. Fuck that.
It's a terrible game. I can't believe you guys get paid to do this.
I don't do this. No, I don't know. You're
doing the initiative wrong, bro.
You're doing initiative wrong. Like I have six sets of homebrew rules going on at the same time.
No, this is how I do it. This is the only way. Anybody got stuff they want to talk about? Projects, plugs, things coming up, stuff going on in the future.
That's good.
Things are working on.
Well, as always,
gentleman underscore game master, not gentleman game master. Like,
dude, I am the worst fucking proofreader on the planet. No, it is deserved. My wife gives me shit about that all the time. I'm gonna start doing it just as a gag. Because 90% of the time it happens on its own, but there's always one little typo or mistake that is on a word, and half the people will never see it and half will, but she always catches it, and she always gives me shit. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I read over that 3 times, and I still mistyped it. So
that's when my wife would be like, should have read it a 4th.
Yeah, right. Doesn't matter. I could read it 12. He would still be the genteel game master.
Yeah, genteel. Ooh. Mal, anything any new games besides? I know you do the Theros thing. Anything else
Theros
you got
thing.
Working on in your world?
All the games are still on. Meetup. We're the D&D experience point on Meetup. We are, on the West Coast. But if you've got some West Coast time and you want to play some games, I run Theros games. Once a month, I also run Alien. I'm like a Alien super fan, so I run my Alien RPG.
When do you run that, man? Because that's actually something I would love to play.
Oh my god, I would love to.
Yeah, me too.
Game. It's usually one Thursday a month.
Okay.
I've been doing they've been like 4 or 5 part miniseries. And like for example, our players have been playing. We just had our 4th episode we're going into now, and they just encountered a xenomorph. Nice. But the shit is getting real.
When you let me know when you cycle over to a new miniseries, I may play that movie. A little aside, and I don't mean to interrupt, but that movie, I remember when I was 7 years old, seeing the commercials for that movie and the trailers, and I had this one friend, and he was this kid. I mean, I was 7, he may have been 9, the older guy, and he just had such a penchant for storytelling. And for some reason, his parents let him see the movie as a 9-year-old. I don't know how he wasn't in therapy for the rest of his life. Yeah. But he explained the whole movie, and I just, long story short, that movie scared the shit out of me. I had recurring dreams about aliens basically till I was 40 years old, and I never saw the first one until after I saw Aliens when I was 18, and I finally went back and saw Alien, and it still scared the piss out of me. So I want to play this.
Freaking haunting.
Remember, you want to talk about being old heads? Remember that this was a time when we were kids where I was seeing the movies around the same like 9, 10, because they were making in the early 90s or late 80s. You're talking about they were making Alien toys, Predator toys, RoboCop, Cap toys for RoboCop. Like the Officer Murphy gets his arm blown off. They shoot him like 18. My parents always made me close my eyes during that scene. The most terrifying aspect of RoboCop is listening to Murphy die multiple times as a child, but never seeing it till I was older, because it was so much worse in my mind.
You're going, just keep the beat going, man. I just gotta keep the beat going.
Yeah.
Just gotta keep it moving. I need a popcorn.
Your chest bursts open and your arms fly off.
Oh, God.
So you love Alien when
Yeah,
when you describe the beast as majestic and elegant.
Yeah,
I love that thing.
Right? I admire its majesty and its drive. But so yeah, I want to play that, but I want to do it like we got to play like 1 in the morning or something with your green screen and your soundtrack and all that shit.
Man, I'm down. We'll do it.
Are you back? Are you back in person now, Mal? Out there on the West Coast, do you guys run? Are you running anything in person?
I'm trying it. I just started to do a couple games in person. I do them very sparingly. I think online has been a bit of a game changer for people's schedules and time. But sometimes I just like going out and sitting in a bar for.
I saw Zombie Side the other night, right?
D&D, yeah. So now sometimes we just have board game days where I just want a day off and just kind of hang with the folks and drink and enjoy, and everybody in the bar is like, oh, you're the dungeon guy. Yeah, that's me. I'm the dungeon master. That comes out here and hangs out. So it's a little less business now, a little bit more pleasure.
That's good. That's awesome.
Well, then you're doing it wrong. You shouldn't be having fun doing this.
Yeah.
So
I know, right?
Get back to work.
No fun at all.
One thing I've also done is for live games, I've since I got a printer, I started printing miniatures at a smaller scale and making smaller little sets. So right now I'm doing Candlekeep Mysteries, and so since Candlekeep is all about books, I build every story, and everything that I need for the campaign needs to fit in the book.
Oh wow!
I saw that on your IG. That book. I saw the book. I wondered what that was.
I didn't see that.
The whole story is in the book. Like you fit it
all the miniatures, all the set pieces, they're all in one book. And I buy these books. I buy these, those shell books that aren't really a book.
Yeah.
It's like a box for putting your stuff in. And there's usually 3 book inside of a book.
The shit they use at IKEA to make you feel like you're at home.
I buy one of those, I fancy it up, and then I print the miniatures. I print all the heroes go from 28 millimeter to I don't know what that would be, like 1/4 of that.
Yeah, 15 with a tiny.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. And then it all comes out of the book and it all goes back in the book, so I'm not lugging a ton of stuff in and out when I play live. So
that's very cool.
Printing, game changer.
I didn't know you got a printer. We need to take that offline. I want to pick your brain.
Yeah, we'll have that conversation. Oh my god, I love it.
my wife Irina will love that. Hey, I'm buying a 3D printer, and now there's going to be another 10,000 minis lying around the house.
I floated that idea, and that idea did not go well in my house.
Well,
I was like, honey, we could turn it into a business. And she's like, bullshit. You just want to play
I didn't want one. I told my friends that I didn't want one. I got one for my birthday. The wife bought me like a pretty decent, pretty cost-effective one, But I said I don't want to get into that. I'm already doing too much. And then, sure enough, it showed up. So it's like, all right, well, here we go.
Before I forget, on that note, just to get back to our main topic, as a wrap-up, even though I know the 3 of us could talk for another like fucking 3 hours tonight. I wanted to shout out to Tabletop Things out of New Jersey. He does all of the laser cut wood terrain.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really fucking cool.
Very cool.
I have the boat, the sailing ship, which, by the way, that actually, if you're doing a nautical encounter or story arc, that I would highly recommend, because it's hard to do a ship and do all the decks and maintain that. You can't fake a ship. So that is it's really cool, and he does cloth sails now and stuff like that. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Tabletop Things. Check it out. Very cool.
There's I don't know if you guys have have checked this guy. I think Galadoria Games. They do 3D. They I think they print all their own terrain. You can buy it either painted or unpainted. And I bought a tavern from them a while back, and it is so nice. The paintwork, like Dwarven Forge, is more durable because it's that plastic stuff. But this
Dwarvenite.
The Dwarvenite. This is all the resin, and I think it's all made in America. They just expanded their business, but like the craftsmanship on it is just really, really cool. It has a lot of like flavor and
what's it called?
And Galadoria Games.
Galadoria Games. All right.
Let me double check. Galadoria.
Wait a minute. So wait a second. So you bought some of this stuff?
Yeah.
Mr. I don't like the terrain, and I use a photo with circles on it.
I didn't say I didn't buy it. I have an addiction, and it's all the plastic and toys. I just say I need it for work, and
I'm just giving you shit, dude.
I know.
It's a write-off.
I swore to myself.
That's the best part about this.
It's a write-off. Hey, you Twisted Duo, you hear that? It's a write-off.
It's a write-off.
That's a running joke we have. That's a write-off. What was I going to say? I swore to myself I was not going to dive into Dwarven Forge, and I did, and I don't see that ending anytime soon.
I know I'm trying to temper and just not speak so that we can wind down and let Adam close us out.
All right, I'll shut up.
No, it's all good, guys. It's all good.
Yeah, I'll shut up.
Yes, please shut up. Please be quiet. I can only tolerate you for an hour a week.
This is why we don't normally do an hour.
I know. It's like, yeah, the last 15 minutes, they get a little crazy. Well, Mal, I just really appreciate you being here, man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We haven't had a chance to
anytime.
So it's great to see you.
I'd love to do it.
I think you're going to be a regular guest on the show, whether you like it.
Let me know when you need me, man. Tuesdays are pretty open, so
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Appreciate y'all being here. If you're watching this on Twitch, please give Brian's account a follow, RPG and Co. And then if you could give me a follow over at the D&D Club on Twitch. We're trying to build our accounts to just continue doing some of this. Mal is Gentleman Gamemaster on IG. Mal, do you have a Twitch or are you any other socials?
I have a YouTube. It's not mine. It's really just so I could share the game. If you ever want to see what kind of games I run, it's Gentleman Gamemaster on YouTube as well. I do have a Twitch. It's not a Twitch. I'm sorry, Twitter, but no Twitch. I don't do any streaming right now. I'd like to. Starting to maybe something to talk about in the future. But
cool.
Yeah, but thanks. I appreciate you guys having me. It's always a good time.
Yeah,
for sure. Thanks for joining us, man.
All right, everybody. Same time next week, 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll just cast it again on RPG and Go's Twitch just for some consistency. I'm Adam Scott. That's Brian Weiss. Mal, appreciate you being here. We're out. Have a good week, everybody.
Peace.